What's up, guys? This is your boy JDTheCollector. We're here at Average Joe's with RollingWithFD.
How you doing?
Today we're gonna do a little shopping today, see what he's feeling, see what he's not. You ready?
I'm ready.
So FD, man, talk about how it was like collecting back in Chicago.
In Chicago, it was small shops, small local card shops, where you would go in and see what that card shop had. And it was different because eBay didn't play such a role back in the day. So you were dependent on what your card shop had as far as what you were going to buy. And kind of the card shop owner bought what they were interested in. So that's kind of how that went back in the day. This is like when I was like 9, 10 years old.
Yeah. So what were you collecting back then?
Mainly baseball, football, really started out with. The first baseball set that I really looked at was the 84 set with Don Manley. Then I went to the 87 top set with Jerry Rice's rookie card.
No basketball yet at the time, or not?
No basketball at the time. Basketball back in the day was very hard to find. So you would go into a lot of shops that didn't have those cards available. So if you talk about 86 Flair Jordan, I didn't go in shops and see that.
So it was big back then as well?
Pardon me?
It was big back then, like how it is right now, or it was just harder to find?
No, basketball cards were just taken off. So you had the Star, and the Star was counterfeited a lot. So when the Flair came out, its distribution, I didn't see a lot of it. So that's what made me stick with baseball and football.
So when did you start going into basketball? Because I know you're a big basketball fan from Chicago. So
yes.
Just talk about, I'm sure it's going to be MJ who you collected, but who was the main player besides MJ that you collected back then?
When I really jumped into basketball is when Kobe came out, started collecting some Kobe.
Of course.
But really when Shaq came out is when I started diving into basketball. I really loved Shaq, and the next year I really loved Anthony Hardaway. And I just dove into basketball big with those two players, and just kind of kept going.
So was it the main thing you bought them back then? Because back then you didn't have like Instagram, you didn't have YouTube or anything like that. It was just more of you enjoying the game, right?
Enjoying the game, and then going in, and at that time I bought packs of cards, like a box of cards, and then I would go home and rip that and immediately put stuff in the sleeves.
Wow.
And then keep the cards.
So I remember I saw a video you had you posted a few months ago where you had you actually went to Burbank.
Yes.
Remember when you pulled
went to Burbank Sportscards.
But the LeBron, the 03. So you actually pulled that, right?
I pulled those LeBrons, all of them, by opening boxes. I probably purchased 4 or 5 boxes, opened them, pulled LeBrons out. And my thing was immediately put the stuff in the sleeves because you didn't know how your cards were going to grade out later. I had just started learning about grading when LeBron came out as a rookie.
Yeah.
So my forward thinking was to make sure I protect the card until then. Someone recently asked me a question, why didn't I grade those LeBron cards already? They were in storage from 2003 until 2020 when I pulled them out.
Wow.
And so I took them into Burbank just to get a gauge of what the price is at.
You end up selling them or you still have them?
Still have them. Plan to keep them.
As you should. So let's talk about LeBron. Let's talk about the GOATs. We were on live the other day and we were talking about your top 10 your favorite top 10 players. So let's talk about, I guess let's just talk about the top 5 and who your favorite basketball players at the time are still at right now.
I mean, Michael Jordan, I have a lot of love for Oscar Robertson, Kareem, Magic Johnson. Those players I think Oscar Robertson gets forgotten about a lot.
Yeah.
But he was the LeBron James / Russell Westbrook before those players were ever known. A big guard that could run the court, distribute the ball, and ruled triple doubles at the time.
Yeah, of course.
So those are the players that I really looked up to.
You actually watched him play, or you didn't see him?
No, I didn't see Oscar Robertson play, but I've seen a lot of film, and he was one of my father's favorite players.
Oh, that's very important. Oh, speaking of, you talked about your father in our live the other day. Just talk about how important it was when you guys first went to your card show in Chicago.
So my first card show in Chicago was when I was 13 years old. I wanted to go get Jose Canseco's autograph, and my father wanted to take me. And I consider him the originator of RollingWithFD because he was the person that wanted me to go and not only get an autograph or buy a card, but also talk to people and be a part of the community and engage in conversations. And that's what kicked everything off.
So let's get into that a little bit because a lot of people are afraid to talk to people when they go to shows. They're so afraid of what people are going to say, people are going to think. But you go out there just talking to everybody. You don't care who they are. You just want to you see what they're doing, see what they're selling, all that stuff. So let's talk about just going out there and just trying to be engaging and networking with other people.
I always say that to me, you start with one person at one table, and you have a conversation, and you learn something about them, and you have a conversation with them, and then you remember those facts and take it to the next conversation. I get goosebumps, and I'm a little bit nervous before every show. Most people wouldn't think that, but I kind of overcome that by thinking about the first conversation I'm gonna have, and then being a part of that conversation, not thinking about the next one. So that would be my advice to everyone. Take it table by table, person by person.
Yeah, don't be afraid. I feel like the first step is the hardest, but after you get that second step, third step in, it's a lot easier to talk to people, and you find out, you talking to people in these different tables, you guys find the same interest.
That's right.
You just gotta.
We're all here about the hobby and about cards, so we already have that interest. So that kind of opens the door.
Yeah, so let's move on to what you're doing now, YouTube.
Yeah, doing YouTube. Wanted to start the channel to allow G and I to work together. He loves editing. I love talking about cards, so we wanted to go out and have a different voice out there talking about cards. We also wanted to represent different parts of the community, of the collecting community. So that was my big interest of getting up, getting a camera, and getting going on that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the best thing. You'll be able to work with your family, your son, and just spending time together. And I feel like that's one thing that the hobby's missing, is just trying to bring everybody together.
Yes.
I try to bring all my interests into the hobby and just try to find a way to make it work somehow. So let's talk about, you already talked about the purpose, but what's the goal, the end goal? Like, what is the purpose of you doing YouTube? Just sharing your stories and whatever you do?
Yeah, I want to share my stories. I also want to let people know that may look different than something that they've ever seen on YouTube, that it's possible. And if you enjoy collecting, there's a hobby for you. I would like to bring more children into the hobby and educate people on cards and be an advocate for that as well. So the sky's the limit really on Rolling with FD. We're just getting started. We've been at this a few months. We have a lot of goals for the future. I hope to accomplish them.
Yeah. So I forgot to ask you in the beginning, but how did the name Rolling with FD start? Also, how did the tone "I'm Rolling with FD"? Your intro. How did that all come up? How did that all come together?
Well, I think about things a lot, right? So there's a lot of things about the show that has happened, just kind of relaxing and chilling out. And the name Rolling with FD, I wanted to be encompassing of everybody in the community, right? The show is not just about me. So if JD and I are together, or G and I are together, whoever the collector may be, we're all going in the same direction. We all have a general interest, so I want to be a name that was all encompassing. The intro song came from having a jingle that spoke to that as well, right? Something that you could remember in your head and think about, right? I'm rolling with FD. Yeah. And then I just became excited about that. I ran home after work one day, talked to G about that, and we started recording, and we brought Super Junior in. My girlfriend April was involved. We wanted to be a family song, so that's kind of how that originated.
Yeah, every time I hear your video, I always go, "I'm rolling with FD." And I'll be like, "Well, I'm rolling with JD."
That's right. You can put your right.
I know, but
it's
pretty cool that you're able to bring it all together. The family, the love that you have for the cards, the hobby, and all these things. It's just like, it's crazy to me how you're able to mix it together.
I love it because the intro song to me, if you can bob your head to that, which I want you to do, that's really what it's all about. And then whatever comes after that, you're engaged.
Yeah. So let's talk about just the biggest challenges, if you've faced any so far, just with your YouTube journey so far.
Just being, you got to be consistent. If you're involved in YouTube, just be consistent. Put content out there. There may be some things that you may think, hey, that doesn't work. When we went to Burbank, I didn't know how that was going to go. We put it. That was what the most nervous I ever was, pressing the publish button to get that content out there. But people enjoyed it. So sometimes even some things that you may think doesn't work, it will. But be consistent and be creative. Don't be afraid to take a chance at something.
Yeah, and I hope everybody understands that you can't be afraid whatever you do. If you enjoy it and you love it, go after it.
That's right. With a passion, go after it.
Always with a passion, always with a goal. Because at the end, it feels so much better when you're finally able to meet that goal. Especially with your son, family members, whoever it may be. It's always a nice journey to be, go with somebody with it.
And every card I purchase, every show I go to, I remember when I got that card, purchased that card, and then there's a story behind it. Every autograph show I ever went to in the past, there was a story behind it. That's what makes this stuff so special.
Yeah, and then you just changing the narrative. I just had a great curator on, you, me, and some other people are just changing the narrative of the hobby. And I feel like that was one of my goals this year, is to change the conversation just a tiny bit, still about cards, but more about us, the person.
Right, the people, right?
The people, and I think that's the most important thing that people are not realizing yet. So hopefully, moving forward with your content, with his, mine, whoever it may be, this changes the conversation a little bit. And another thing is just inspiring the next person.
That's right.
So let's talk about, you're talking about bringing kids involved, but let's talk about trying to inspire the next person to do this.
I try to lead by example. So I'm all inclusive in the content. If you're watching an episode, I want to showcase people of color, showcase women, showcase different people around the country that may be interested in different types of cards. This hobby is vast, so I want to show everything from A to Z that's about the hobby.
Yes, and I really appreciate that. So now let's just shop around the store, see what you find, see what you're enjoying, and maybe give us a little insight of why you bought the card.
Yeah.
All right.
So this case has vintage, right? So
Yeah.
I always like vintage cards because it's the history of the sport that we're talking about today. But also vintage cards deliver a very consistent rate of growth on the card. So I know with modern, you may see a high jump in a card, you may see a card drop in value. But if you're collecting vintage in the right player and you have the right grade of card, you will see a consistent growth. Never forget about that.
So let's talk about modern. You see all this modern basketball. What player are you looking at right now in the new era of basketball? Because it's changing. There's no more LeBron, KD. It's slowly moving to a new generation.
That's the thing I think about with collecting, right? Who's next up? And we talk about this at home all the time. There are players that you can think about who, as JD said, LeBron, KD, those players are getting older. Who's next on your list? I watch a lot of sports. I don't know what other collectors do. I look at a lot of attributes to the player. Are they progressing in their career? What are their points looking like when they go to the playoffs? Do they score more? Are they allowing their team to win? Are they helping their team to win? Are they an all-star? Are they making it to the Pro Bowl? What are they doing in their career? Those are kind of the checklists that I go through. So if a player starts checking those boxes, I become more and more interested in their cards, and I start doing research to understand where their cards at right now, where could they go.
Real quick, I want to ask you this. You're about the culture and everything.
Yeah.
Do you feel like what they do outside of the court plays a bigger role, like LeBron?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think likability of the player and what they do outside of the court is huge. I actually think LeBron is going to be a player that does great things off the court that's going to still bring attention to his cards after he retires. But we talk about Steph Curry, right? Steph Curry is a well-liked player. For a reason, I think that affects his card prices.
This baseball, I mean, you said baseball was your first
Yes,
first
baseball.
love, so maybe let's talk about what were you collecting back then. I mean, from Chicago, are you a big White Sox fan or
Big
what?
White Sox fan.
Luis
A lot of
Roberts?
Frank Thomas stuff was kind of overpopulated. You can still get some great cards now, but they're in a higher graded amount.
Yeah.
I just really look at the players again and see what market they're in. I think markets here really play a role. I mean, it plays a role in basketball too. So if you're in a small market and you move to the Yankees or you move to the Cubs or the White Sox, you can probably predict there's going to be some kind of increase in the card. Pitchers, we know cards are undervalued. If you're looking at something to get into, pitchers, you may want to start there. Those are some of the things I look at. This is I know a lot of collectors that just get into the autograph cards. Like if you look at here with this Fernando Valenzuela card, that's a graded card where the autograph is graded. So someone took that card, got it signed, and got it slabbed. A lot of people do that with baseball starting out. A lot of children or people young in the hobby can also do that to get a footing in collecting.
Yeah, so how do you feel about grading? Do you feel like, for me, PC, I don't care if it's graded or not, but yesterday you bought a nice Kobe card. So
Yes.
does the grade matter to you? Does it have to be graded, or it could just be, oh, you know what, it's a nice PC, I'll just put it in a one touch and call it a day?
There are two things that I'm going to do with cards. If it's not graded, I'm going to scrutinize that card while I'm standing there. I'm looking at I'm going through the grading process, looking at surface, corners, everything, edges on that card. I really prefer a graded card because then I can walk out and know where I'm at with that card. But you can find some great buys if you find a card that's not graded, but go through your process, understand what are you buying.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, the process. And then let's just move into football. You said football was your first love, right?
Yeah.
So
Play football, love football.
I thought you were a basketball player. Football?
Well, I played a little bit of everything growing up, but organized, play football.
So what was who was your football team? The Bears?
Bears, Chicago Bears.
Oh, there's no
I
Bears
don't
here.
care how bad they are, Chicago Bears.
So let's talk about Joey B. We have Joey B here, a lot of Josh Allen. This football in general now moving forward. Lamar Jackson. How do you feel about the market moving forward? Are you into those big name, the quarterbacks? Because I feel like only players that get love is the quarterbacks.
That's right.
No receivers, running backs. I feel like it just goes up and down. So let's talk about the market of football right now.
Well, everything, buy what you like, what you really enjoy. If you're looking for a large increase or somewhat of a moderate increase in your initial investment, quarterbacks are the way to go. You have Herbert coming up, his game is great. You have Burrow, his game is great. If Burrow would have won the Super Bowl this year, his cards would have went through the roof. So just think about that. But I still have love for defensive players, defensive linemen, linebackers, things of that nature. If you like those players, still invest in them. But we know that quarterbacks are going to be the way that leads the hobby when it comes to football cards.
And just real quick, let's talk about the market of how it just fluctuates, because basketball is every day, baseball is every day. But football, you gotta wait a week. You gotta wait a week because like you said, Herbert, if he would have won the Super Bowl, boom, prices go up. True. If he didn't, then it goes. Obviously, then he went down. Lamar Jackson, he's hurt right now, but he's probably one of the most exciting players out. He has one bad game, the prices drop.
Yes.
He has one good game, boom, it goes back to normal. So let's talk about how it fluctuates and how you feel about that.
Yeah, prices will go up and down, but I am a long-term collector. So in my mind, I'm thinking about where is this player going to be in the long term? This is a quarterback. Is this a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl? Can lead their team to a Super Bowl? Are they a stats person? What is that quarterback doing? I'm thinking the same thing for other players as well. Like we look at this Marshall Faulk card here. If you want to invest in that, you think about who is Marshall Faulk long term as far as in the running back race, right?
Yeah.
How does he stack up against Walter Payton, Jim Brown, things of that nature? There's a market there. It may not be a high return market, but there's a market there. If you look at defensive players, you got Deion Sanders. His cards, there's a resurgence in 1989, 1990, early 1990 cards. If you have a card that's in a good grade, people are seeking these cards out. Barry Sanders, Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders. There's a market there. Really find your niche. What are you interested in? Once you go through that filter, find out what you're interested in, then start asking yourself, what players interest me? And there's something there for you. As long as you keep a realistic view on what return are you thinking about on those cards, the love should come, in my humble opinion, before the investment side.
Here at the modern section, like we talked about on the other side, do you see anything that you like? We got John Morant, LaMelo here, and then Luka, Lonzo Ball, and we have Mr. Wiseman. I know you talk about Wiseman a lot.
I love Wiseman. Jason Tatum is a great player. Anthony Edwards, I think, is a great player. I think the hobby is catching up to who he is in comparison to LaMelo, because the hobby took off first with LaMelo. But a player that I love, anybody who watches the show knows that James Wiseman, I think, is going to be a phenomenal player. He only played 3 games in college. Went through a lot of stuff at Memphis, came out, went to Golden State, ended up getting hurt, I think tearing his meniscus. But his return is coming soon. And I think like this card right here is the 2020 Panini James Wiseman Fast Break Blue. And just walking in, right, I'm looking at this. This card is, I know it's numbered. I just remember cards. I research them all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So when I look at the back, this is out of 175. And then I would quickly, my next step would be to scan this card and see what the population is. So let's do that.
So let's talk about how important it is for the pop.
For me, I know some people say population is not that important, but I want to know if I'm holding a card and I'm thinking about investing in it, how many of the cards out there are like this card? So if we look here, you can see that this is a pop 2 with 1 higher, and this is a PSA 9. So this is a card that will quickly interest me, right? Let's look at it though. It's a great looking card. So then I would ask Adrian, how much is this card selling for? And I would want to get into a negotiation to see what's the best price I can get this card at. Because I think Wiseman is going to do great things as soon as he comes back.
Yeah, in the system he's in.
And the reason why, right? Curry's cards have went up, Steph Curry. Clay came back, his cards went up after he came back. I think the same thing's gonna happen with Wiseman.
Even though he's a big man? Because we were just talking about how big men don't get that much love.
I think big men don't get that much love, but I think his game is gonna be versatile enough where he's gonna be able to flex out and have a mid-range jump shot to even shooting 3-pointers. And we see other players that do that kind of stuff like Jokic and Giannis. And this is the next wave for that kind of player to me.
Yeah, and then plus, let's talk about the situation he's in Golden State.
Yeah, in Golden State, right, he doesn't have to carry a team. Wiseman can come in and be a defensive guy, score when needed in the offense, but he doesn't have to lead that team to the playoffs. He has legendary Hall of Fame players to do that, and he has people to learn from. Draymond Green is a great coach on the court for Wiseman. that's why I get excited.
All right, there you have it, guys. FD came through, told some amazing stories, gave a lot of free game, and picked up a nice Wiseman card. Thank you guys for Average Joe's for letting us film here, and shout out to FD. You got anything?
Thank you for allowing me to be here. This has been a great opportunity. You can find us on YouTube at RollingWithFD, also on Instagram at RollingWithFD, and you can send me any kind of emails or correspondence to RollingWithFD@gmail.com. This has been a pleasure.